everybody. Welcome to the Truth Will Set You Free show. This show is brought to you by TLBTV and the Liberty Beacon Project. Yes, I am excited again. I have an awesome guest for us today. His name is Lyman A. Montgomery. Hi, Lyman.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm great, and you?
I am blessed, focused, and excited to be here.
Yes, and I want to find a place to start with this person. He reminds me of someone who I always taught my kids that once your eyes are open, you can never close them. Once Lyman's eyes were open, he never lost his focus. He never lost his focus. And the journey to get to that eye-opening reality is no joke. And before we go into the heart of that matter, I want to give you an idea about this man. I am really impressed. I just am. Anytime a person can find their way, anytime a person, especially a man in America today, that is self-made, you have to appreciate that, because once he was self-made, he was able to self-build other people. And that's what's missing in the world today, people willing to help assist to build other people. He don't come short from that mission. But to give you an idea of him, first of all, I'd like to say he is an entrepreneur to the max. He's definitely an entrepreneur. He is a very proud father. He has 2 sons, Cameron and Justin. He is the founder and president of GetFocused.com. No, GetFocusedToday.com. He has helped professionals, companies, and organizations to raise their quality of work by teaching them how to focus into their priorities so they could be productive. I mean, I could really go in depth there, but I'm going to let him do that. He is also a Lean Six Sigma black belt trainer. Yeah. He has many certifications that allow him to be in position to guide and direct other people to a better place. He just does not stop. He is a very well-known speaker, a major high-quality presenter. I have to say that because I've seen some of his presentations, and he is a person that's into presenting. He don't just like to have you reading. He wants you to see, and he will take you there even in a book. And he has several works of printing done. He is an author. He's an amazing author. One of the books he wrote, what was that? Shattered Mask.
Shattered Mask.
7
masks, yes, that we wear.
But the book that we're going to end up talking about is Focus-Driven Lifestyle Strategies. His favorite number, 7 strategies, right?
Yes, 7 strategies to overcome and to destroy procrastination and distractions in your life.
He is really someone that you want to hear from. So I'm going to ask you, what is it that you want people to know right off the bat?
One of the things is it's never too late to start. I just got back from doing an event on last night. And one of the questions that people ask me, have I missed it? Is it too late? You know, I had a dream, and I shared a story of one of my clients. She was a hairdresser. And she came to me and she said, Lyman, when I was a kid, I wanted to go to law school, but my parents couldn't afford to send me because they couldn't afford the $150 admission application fee. And she thought her life was over. I said, it's not over. You still have life in your body. And I worked with her, And at the age, well, I won't tell her age, but her kids are grown. She just entered law school. And she's so proud because she thought it was too late. And I worked with her, built her confidence up. And I'm so proud of her because she had lost her focus. She had got distracted. And one of the things that I noticed about her, she would do hair, but would give legal advice. And I always say, okay, stop being a bootleg attorney and credentials. And we worked with her, and now she's in law school doing well. So it's never too late to live your dreams.
And I mean, you have accomplished many things. And one of the foundations that you came up on was education. You took education serious. Your family took education seriously. What is some of the education that you have acquired?
Yeah, let me begin by saying I started out making nothing from the time I was in probably third all the way up through 6th or 7th grade. The highest grade I ever made was a D-. And I remember a teacher, Mr. Ron, R-A-H, and I'm going to call his name. I hope he's listening. He said to me I was not college material. He told me that I should settle with probably going into the military, and they probably wouldn't accept me. He shared that I'm in the 6th grade, shattered my dreams, shattered my hope. But I had a father at home, and my father was not an educated man, but he was a very wise man. And he said, well, son, you just have to prove him wrong. I'm so glad, and I want to thank Mr. Ron because he inspired me to prove him wrong. And when I went to the high school, graduated with honors, got a full academic scholarship, graduated with honors, got my first master's, my second master's, and next year, Lord willing, I will walk across the stage with my PhD. In between all of that, 15 professional certifications. Now, I don't say that to brag.
I know.
I say that to let people know that never allow anyone to define your destiny. Listen, I didn't learn to speak till I was 8 years old. Wore braces on my legs, sexually abused for 3 years. And yet, if I can do it, and I didn't come from a big family, a nice pedigree. I came from the inner city of Dayton, Ohio. But two things I had a father that gave me a work ethic. And second, I had a mother who was an educator who believed that education and not sports was a ticket out of poverty. And because of that, my brother went on and graduated from Juilliard with a degree in dance. My sister is an executive for Disney. My youngest sister has her own business, a photography business. My brother, my oldest brother, we call him Big Brother Robert. He's in Atlanta, and he's a supervisor. And it's because my parents instilled in us, never allow anyone to decide your future or your destiny. As long as you have God on your side, there is nothing impossible, but you must believe it. So that's all it was. Support and belief.
Yeah, and see, another thing about that too, you didn't just arrive there.
I always say I'm a 20+ year overnight success.
Yes, because you had to get over some things that cost you so much.
Yes.
Like you was bullied. Tell us about that experience.
Because when you don't know how to speak, I had a serious speech impediment. I remember being assessed at a speech therapist, and I couldn't even enunciate the word man. It came out muh. I couldn't walk. So when you're in school, kids can be cruel. So I was bullied, literally beaten at recess, beaten after school. My oldest brother, Robert, would fight my fight. Every day after school, I would get chased home, and my brother would be fighting. He could fight. He was a good fighter, still is. And what changed that was real simple. My stepfather told me, he said, boy, if you run from another fight, you're going to have to deal with me. And I was kind of scared of my dad, he's a big construction guy. But my mother said, learn how to fight with your mind. And so I began to think about, how can I win a fight without throwing a blow? And I began reading books and creating fantasies and stories. And so when someone want to fight me, I would just start telling these crazy stories. And they would say, man, you be tired, you crazy down somewhere. You're not even worth my time. And I fell in love with storytelling. Couldn't talk, sounded funny, but I was telling my story.
Wow. So what caused you to become so introverted that you went down the wrong paths that could have led to your greatest good?
Yeah, what happened is, part of it was feeling like I had so much inside of me to give, but no one wanted to hear it. I hadn't found my voice yet. And I come across so many people that are stuck there. They say, Lyman, I have so much to give, but I don't know if people really want to hear my story. Because we find ourselves trying to compare ourselves to someone else. I wanted to be like my big brother, Robert. He could sing, he could fight. I mean, people just would surround themselves around him. And I was always, oh, that's your brother. You know, the middle child syndrome. My youngest brother got all the attention because he could dance. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't talk. I couldn't walk. And so I began to find myself daydreaming a lot. Matter of fact, my mother said, boy, stop daydreaming. But what she didn't know is I was literally creating stories in my head. I would build organizations. I saw myself having a lot of money. I saw myself going into companies because at an early age, I was always able to mediate. When two people wanted to fight, because I was a good storyteller, I would listen to their story and I would say, you really don't want to fight this person. They didn't mean. And so I was mediating. I didn't know it at the time. So all the gifts and all the talents that I had on the inside, it needed an avenue. I didn't find that until 7th grade, when a teacher by the name of Mrs. Jarvis was my English teacher. I couldn't speak. I was still going to speech therapy. And she made me do the poem, The Creation, by James Weldon Johnson. It is an extremely long poem, but she worked with me after school every single day for a month. My good friend Naaman made straight A. I said, Naaman, I have to do this poem. How? He said, Lyman, stand in front of a mirror. Naaman was 2 years older than me. He said, stand in front of a mirror and become someone other than you. It's called acting. I stood in front of the mirror, and at that time, my role model was Dr. King. And so I could say it, I could imitate his voice. And all of a sudden, I remember going into the classroom, and I said, Mrs. Jarvis, I can't do it. And she said, yes, you can. I said, no, no, no. I said, I can only do it. I can do it like Dr. King. She said, let me hear it. I grabbed a Bible and I sat in a chair, and I never forget, I said, I was sitting at home one day and I was reading how God had stepped out on space. And as far as the eyes of God could see, darkness covered everything, blacker than 100 midnights down in a cypress swamp. Then God smiled and the light broke. The darkness rolled up on one side and the light stood shining on the other. And God said, that's good. She looked at me and tears came down her cheek. And she said, Lyman, I want you to say it like that. I found my voice. Even though I was imitating Dr. King, that was nothing more than a pathway, a door to discovering who I was. And she began to work with me, and I ended up winning the speech competition, went on and won the city, went on and won the states, went on and won the Rotary Club competition. And all of a sudden, my speech impediment went away. And everyone started asking me to do speeches.
Wow.
And she was the one that said, okay, you don't have to be Dr. King now. You can do it in your own voice. I said, but I can't. She said, Lyman, you've been doing it in your own voice. And that's how that introverted kid became someone who now helps so many. But I had other struggles along the way, and we'll get into that later. But that was the beginning of my journey to overcoming so many obstacles.
You could have kept on reading. Like you would read that poem, I was like, okay. Wow.
You know, I haven't recited, man, it's a lot. It's more than that. I haven't recited that in probably 30 years or more. But it's still there. I practice it so much. I would wake up saying that poem.
Okay, I can understand how you end up being a good speaker, but how did you end up being so good at your presentations?
Mrs. Jarvis, again, my language arts teacher, there was a program called Poetry in Motion at the school. And she said, Lyman, I want you to be the MC, and I want you to do the poem that you had won the city and the state with. She said, and I want you to understand the three most important P's: presence. When you walk out there, be still. Don't ask people to be quiet. Just stand there and let them see you. And it was the first time someone said, let them see who you are. Let them see your greatness. I'm 13 years old. She said, just stand there. Your presence. When you walk out, walk with your back straight. Your presence. Second, your poise. Don't be in a hurry. Wait for them to be quiet because you are the center of attention. And she said, the last is your presentation. And you already got that mastered. So that's how I became a great presenter. It's because of those three master keys: your presence, how you show up, your poise, I'm not going to speak over you, I can wait, and the presentation. I teach that all over the country, and it has helped so many people overcome their fear. And I think the problem is a lot of times people show up and they just want to get through things. And what focus really is about is being aware, your presence. And I teach an exercise how to just be present. Be still. One of my favorite verses say, be still and know. Because the problem is we're in a world where things are moving so fast that we don't have an opportunity to simply be still and know.
So do you remember that monumental moment with your family that they were so amazed of you?
Yes, it was Mother's Day. And I was probably in 8th or 9th grade. And my parents, they still didn't know I was doing all this speaking and stuff. And I didn't tell them. I was afraid to tell them. Remember, my brother, because I felt like my brother Robert, he could sing like an angel. He still can. And like Martin could just dance. And I was always like just the middle kid, you know. And I remember Mother's Day, and my mother and my stepdad, actually my stepdad, my mother couldn't make it, my stepdad showed up and he stood in the back. And I was doing a speech by, I forget what I did a speech by, I think it was called Mother's Love. No other love than a mother's love could do the things required of, I think by Helen Keller Rice, I believe. And his eyes got real big. He left. I thought I did a horrible job, but what I didn't know, he was getting ready to break down and cry because he had never heard me speak. And he didn't want to see me, he didn't want me to see him crying and get distracted. So he left and he went and told my mother, oh my God, the boy can talk. And after that, my mother decided that every Thursday, it's a very smart woman, every Thursday would have family night. We didn't go outside. We didn't play. Robert would sing. I would have to find a piece of material to read a poem or recite something. My youngest brother, like Martin, would dance. And at that time, Mika was the baby girl. And she was just so smart. She would just stand there with a report card and go, A. But what my mother realized is so much attention was being spent on looking at what I couldn't do that she didn't recognize, and it's no fault of hers. You know, she didn't know that I had this yearning to speak because I never said anything. But when she found out, she encouraged that. My stepdad put me in the martial arts. He said, the boy didn't learn how to fight. He can talk now. He didn't learn how to defend himself.
Wow.
So he put me in the martial arts, and my stepdad had a philosophy. He would pay 6 months in advance. And the reason that he would pay 6 months in advance is he had this philosophy that went like this. If I'm willing to pay 6 months in advance for lessons, you will commit to 6 months. And if you don't want to do it, we'll talk about it at the end of 6 months. And I remember first lesson, I broke my arm. He said, all right, you got a good arm, go back to practice. So I'm in practice learning karate with a broken arm. But he wouldn't let us quit. At the end of 6 months, I wanted to do something else. He said, well, son, you did 6 months, do another 6 months. And it was those sort of lessons from my parents that gave all of us, I always blame my parents for, you know what, y'all put all this unyielding desire to be better, to do better, so we can live better and not to quit. You weren't allowed to quit anything in my parents' household. You couldn't quit sports. You could not quit. I don't care if it was cutting grass and you got tired, take a break, but get back out there. Dishes. And I talk about it in the book. My mother woke me and told me to do the dishes. I kind of, as most teenage boys would do, I rushed through and my mother wouldn't grab the glass. She said it had so much grease on it, it almost slipped out her hand. Well, my mother was very wise. She waited till I went to sleep at about 3 in the morning. She got me up and made me wash every dish and pot and pan in the house. But it taught me a lesson. Now, I haven't done that to my son yet. I think that was a little cruel and unusual punishment, but it worked. It taught me about quality over just getting things done and to do it right.
So what brought you to Focus, become so passionate about it?
What happened is, in my second marriage, first marriage, I got married too young, didn't want to get married. But I said, you know what? I just graduated from college. I didn't know kids. Didn't last. 10 years later, I'm now 37. I said, well, you know what? I'm doing pretty good. Started a business. Business was doing very well, very successful, consulting business. And I was very good at making money. And I tell people this, just because you're good at making dollars, don't mean that they make a lot of sense. Because I was distracted. If a person wanted me to speak on this topic, I'm speaking on stuff that I had no business speaking on. So I was basically a hired gun. And what happened is my son, Destin, was about 4 going on 5, and my then wife called to help with the birthday party. And I was so busy, I said, well, we'll get to it. I mean, he's only 4 years old, no big deal. Well, about a week went by, and I looked, I said, oh man, okay, I got about 20, 30 minutes. This won't take long. I called my then wife. I said, okay, let's plan this birthday party. She said, don't worry about it. You were so focused making money that you forgot about us. And apparently our son was not a priority. It hit me like a ton of bricks. I said, what? But it was done. And then she said something, she was like, and to be honest with you, he probably wouldn't even notice if he was here. Because when you come home, you're working. You don't go to bed, you're working. So you're in the house, but you're not present, you're not aware, because you're in one mode: build, build, build. And my judgment just said, woman, you got this big house, you got this 4,000 square foot house, we got a pond in the back, which is my pond. You got cars, we taking these expensive trips. What's wrong with you? I'm doing all this for you. You know what she said? I didn't ask you for all that. We want you, not all these things. That set me on a journey for 18 months to try to figure out this thing called focus. And what I realized is that I was distracted and I was being pulled in so many different ways. I didn't have time for family. I would say that family was first, but remember, I got rewarded for accomplishments because I was a little introverted kid. I was a sexually abused kid. So for me, when I was on stage, it was a sense of gratification. It was the applause. It really wasn't the money for me. It was the recognition that I'm going to prove, as I started out saying, Mr. Ron Wrong, that I am worthy, that I am somebody. And yet I'm leaving behind my family. And when I realized, and three things happened. The first thing that happened was I had to stop and be still. And I asked myself, I said, Lyman, what's really important to you? Number two, I had to prioritize what was really important. And third, I had to look at a plan to say, how will I get there? And it took me literally 18 months to figure it out. And three things that I did, real briefly. Number one, I read everything I could on focus. Everything. I was like, why am I so distracted? Because everyone kept saying you need to get focused, but no one would say what is focus and how do you get focused. They just said, boy, you need to focus. I didn't know how to do that. What I realized in my research and in my study, that focus is nothing more than your ability to direct your attention towards something, a person, place, or thing. You need a focal point. You need something to focus in on. You ever see the hypnotist with the little watch? It's not the watch. The watch is a distraction of what's taking place. When you look at the card, people that can do tricks with cards, right? The sleight of hand, those are distractions. And all these things that I was doing was nothing more than a distraction. But when I began to be still, when I began to ask myself, Lyman, what's most important, and set some priorities. And then the third thing was, you know what? If I get one thing done, I'm okay. I thought you weren't successful unless you had a to-do list that had front and back. And you could say, I got 15 things done. But I go back to my mother. Yeah, I got the dishes done, but half of them was full of grease. The other half had food on them. So that's what I did to get focused. And then I started sharing with other people. They said, wait a minute, you mean to tell me I don't have to have a big to-do list? I said, no. Figure out your top 3 for the day. That's it, just 3 things. They're like, what am I going to do with the rest of my time? Be with your family. Huh? Funny thing happened. I started being home with the family. You know, my then wife said, what's wrong with you? Are you sick? The kids started saying, Dad, are you okay? They weren't used. I said, no, I'm good. I'm here. They just weren't used to that. Because when I began to get settled in Lyman, and I began to quiet the noise that was going on in my head, and I said, you know what? If I get 3 things done, I'm good. But it's going to be quality. The top 3 quality. Now, all of us have things we have to get done. And I began to prioritize by saying, what is a must do? What is would like to do? And what is absolutely critical that I get done? Because I thought I had to do everything. And so bills, for example, they can be critical or must get done. We got to pay them. mortgage, we have to pay the car note, or that's the best way to get on your feet, not, miss 2 payments, as Les Brown say, and you'll be on your feet walking. When I began to prioritize, things got a lot easy. I began to create color-coded folders, critical, what life to do, made it real easy. So I didn't have to spend a lot of time thinking about things, that I can see it, because I'm a visual learner. My life changed, and then I began to show others. Their life began to change. Next thing you know, people saying, well, how much you charge to teach me? I said, you gonna pay? Well, how much you gonna pay? I don't know, what, $200 an hour? Are you serious? $5,000 to spend an hour talking about this? $7,500? And the money is not the important part. What's important is people began to see the value in what took me 18 months. And I can basically narrow that down, instead of saying, you know what, instead of taking 18 months like I did, I can help you get focused, refocus, so you can stay focused in literally less than 30 days. And they can't believe it.
So what's the difference in focus and procrastination?
You see, procrastination it's the same thing, believe it or not. Focus is your ability to direct your attention. Procrastination is your ability to distract your attention from doing something you don't want to do. You know you have to do it, but you don't want to do it. That's what real procrastination is. I gotta do the dishes. I don't want to do the dishes. When we see, all of us are wired to do things that we, number one, that we love, that we have a desire to do, and that gives us joy. When a person says, I'm a procrastinator, what they're really saying, they haven't found their passion. They haven't found the thing that gives them joy. So they start looking at this task, right, that they have to get done. And they wait till the last minute. They fill the body with cortisol. They fill the body with anxiety. And all of a sudden they get nervous and they rush through it. And they say, well, I got it done. As opposed to saying the better way, and I use an example of doing a paper. Your teacher gives you an assignment. You have a week to do it. Well, don't do it all in one night. Maybe the first night you simply look over your notes. The second, right, that's one thing done. The second night, let's say you read the chapters, put the book down, you're done. The third night, you write the first draft. So you start chunking, taking little bites at a time. And what you'll find out is when you begin to do a little bit and stop. A person asked me, they said, Lyman, I need to exercise. I said, all I want you to do is walk for 7 minutes one way. You know, I love 7. 7 minute one way, 7 minute, and go home. They're like, huh? Yeah, 7 minutes one way, do it consistently for 30 days. What happens is building muscle. It's building the mental muscle to get accustomed to doing things. You ever notice what happens at the beginning of the year? People get memberships. Now, if you own a gym, you love it, because you know at the beginning of the year, folks coming in, they're going to spend $1,200, $1,500, $2,000 on a membership. But the real question is, who shows up in April? And the reason that they fall off, they go into the gym and they spend an hour to 2 hours. The next morning, they can't get out of bed, and the body says, are you crazy? Nope, I'm not going back. And after a while, it becomes too hard. And they say, well, I'm going to take a day off and relax. Next thing you know, it's 3 days. It's 4 days. But if they would have done just a little bit, matter of fact, if you look at a lot of the exercise programs, if you notice, a lot of them are now, you know, quick start, 7 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day. Very few people are saying you need to do these 2 hour or these even an hour of exercises. What they're saying is it's better to do 15 minutes twice a day, in the morning and maybe in the afternoon. after, lunch or even after dinner, walking around a block is better than going to a gym for a whole hour and fatiguing the body. Well, your brain is the same way when it comes to procrastination. If you look at it and say, I'm going to take a little piece at a time, it becomes a lot easier to build up that mental muscle. And before you know it, you had that thing whipped and wiped away in no time. And you say, I can't believe I got all this stuff done. It's a muscle. Your brain is a muscle. The more you exercise it, the easier and the stronger you become. The same as with focus.
Well, tell me this. Have anybody approached you about the topic of ADD?
All the time.
I figured that.
All the time. Let me show you the cure. It's called the ink pen test or the pencil test. People come to me and they say, man, I got ADHD, ADD. I got all of them. And some I ain't never heard of them. And I say, what I want you to do is focus on this ink pen for 10 seconds. And they'll sit there and be doing this. And I said, every time your mind begins to drift or go sidetrack, I want you to take the ink pen and say, come back for 10 seconds and be done. After a while, they say, oh my God, I didn't know I've been looking at this darn ink pen for a minute, 5 minutes. One person said, my God, I was looking at this ink pen for 30 minutes, but only felt like 2 minutes or 30 seconds. What happens is this. There's so much noise and distractions and information, they have not been able to quiet their mind. So you have to give them a focal point. And when they're able, and then you have to give them very clear instructions. All I want you to do is for 10 seconds, count, and to breathe. There's 3 components to getting focused. Number 1, your posture. Sit up, back straight, feet flat. And I want you to do what's called diaphragmatic breathing, or Qigong in Chinese. And I want you to take deep breaths from the diaphragm. And I want you, when you look at this, for 10, exhale, like 1, 2. And then you deflate your body. That will help you do 3 things. It oxygenates your blood. It also allows your brain, it gives your brain something to focus in on. And after doing this for about 7 days, I've had at least 20 to 30 people tell me they're no longer on ADHD medication. You know what they do? They just get an ink pen. It's amazing, isn't it? That's simple, called the pencil test. That simple. And people say, you mean, well, wait a minute, I even had medical. As a matter of fact, one of the persons gave me a testimony. He's a psychiatrist. And he gave me a testimonial based on my strategy. I'm talking about a board certified psychiatrist, went to medical school. And he said, my God, Lyman. And he's actually using some of my techniques. Okay. Now, can I say that this will work for everybody? No, but what I'm saying is the people that I've shown this to, they have told me it works. And I believe part of it is learning how to just be still, how to breathe, not feel anxious. And the first test, before they even get to this, is 10 seconds, just be still. All I want you to do is be still. When you feel like you need to tap, and here's a good way to stop you from tapping. If you take your hands and do this and place it on your chin and just sit and breathe. And you want to feel your stomach. You can put on your stomach the same way and go in and out. Is again, your brain has to have somewhere to focus its energy. And with this, it stops you from doing all this stuff, busy stuff. You know, they got all these little things, little fidget things. All they need to do is just, my son couldn't sit still. I said, boy, sit like this. And all of a sudden, he becomes calm. Isn't it interesting that the prayer hands is also like this?
Wow.
Because it brings, again, a focal point. It directs your gaze, your eye on something. And the reason people can't get focused is too many things going on. And your eyes and your brain is trying to find, it's like a camera. It's trying to find something to focus on. But they can't do that because there's too many things going on. And by simply doing this for 10 seconds, then you move from this to this. And it works. That simple strategy.
Wow. I'm just digesting that right quick. Very interesting. I'm sure you enjoy sharing, don't you?
Absolutely. Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
And your website is amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's like new age.
we actually in 2018 we ready to launch a whole new. We just added 3 new coaching programs because people kept asking, like, Lyman, once we work with you, how can we continue our relationship? And so we created 3 unique programs. One is called Fast Start. That's our online academy, which stands for Focus Acceleration Success Training, FAST, Focus Acceleration Success Training. Those are the people who want to do it themselves, And then we also have our peer coaching. We have 2 programs. One is called P-Coach. Remember the old Navy P-Coach? And it stands for Peer Coaching Optimization Accountability Training. And those are people, they just be someone to hold them accountable. And then we have IFAC, and that just stands for Individual Focus Acceleration Training. And so, again, simple and easy. And so we have rolled those out in about another month or 2 because we really want to help people. And the outpouring has just been incredible. And people are getting results in record time. One promise that I do make when I do my presentations live is the information that I share with them, within 7 minutes, they can implement. At the end, people are walking around, and I can see someone has been through one of my, and I've trained over 50,000 in the last 10 years, and people walk around with an ink pen. And I know what they mean. It's our inside circle group because it works. They have their children sitting there, with the ink pen. And where I got that from, remember those old hypnotists say, follow the ink pen? I said, well, wait a minute, there might be something to it. And all it is a temporary distraction. So I use distraction to get people focused, but it's a focused distraction. So one of the myths is all distractions are bad. In my book, I talk about healthy distractions because we need that. Because sometimes we need what's called a pattern interrupter. We've been doing the same thing and we need something to kind of shake us. It might be, for example, you've been working hard. It might be that phone call from a family member you haven't heard from, or maybe you had a thought and said, I need to call John. And all of a sudden, John calls, like, man, I was just thinking about you. Well, those are healthy distractions. It allows the brain to readjust itself. Where it becomes unhealthy is when we're constantly trying to focus on something until the shiny object comes along and we begin to move from one thing to the next thing. Some people call it multitasking. And the truth of the matter is the brain is horrible at multitasking because it can only do one thing 100%. And I use this example. A person told me, no, I know how to multitask. I'm great at multitasking and I don't miss a beat. So she's having a conversation with me and I'm doing this. And she said, are you listening to me? I said, oh, I'm multitasking. She said, Lyman, I finally got it. I said, you have to make it practical. You're doing all of these things, but are you really giving that person your undivided attention? And she said, oh my God, Lyman, You're right. I never thought of it that way, because we've been conditioned to get things done and not build relationships. In the book, I talk about never confuse activities with accomplishments. Just because you're busy being busy doesn't mean that you've accomplished anything. And I see people do it all the time. They got their to-do list and they got all this stuff written out. And they're like, and I say, well, out of everything you've done, tell me the 3 things that add value. Well, I went shopping. Okay, yeah, you got to eat. What else? Well, I picked up the laundry. You got to have clean clothes. Okay. But what does that do? Everything you're telling me is stuff. Are you telling me there was no food in the house? No. You telling me you didn't have any clothes in the house to wear? Oh, so it comes back to priority. So my motto is focus, prioritize, achieve. Set a focus, prioritize where you should place your focus, and then you can achieve the desired success that you want. And it goes back to what Mrs. Jarvis taught me in 7th, 8th grade. Presence, focus, poise, prioritize, wait for them to acknowledge who you are. And then your presentation. That's your accomplishment, Lyman. That's really it. All I'm doing is implementing what my teacher taught me when I was 13, 14 years old.
So if anybody want to get in touch with you or purchase your books,
yes,
where do they go and how can they get your books?
They can go on Amazon. You can get all of my books. I think I have 5 or 6 books. The most recent one you alluded to, Focus Driven Lifestyle, hit #1 on Amazon about 2 weeks ago. We also launched the audio version of the book, and it is doing well. People are just raving about it. You can also visit the website, focusdriven.com, or you can call me directly, 937-409-6866, and you will get me directly. And that's it. You can Google me. I'm easy to find.
Yes, you are. Lyman.
Yes, ma'am.
You are on the Truth Will Set You Free show. Give us a truth to remember you by.
The truth that I want you to remember me by is simply this. My goal is to help you get focused, refocus, so you can stay focused and live a focus-driven lifestyle.
It was wonderful having you on our show today.
Thank you. I enjoyed it. I had fun.
I am so amazed of your knowledge and simplicity of it.
Thank you.
And like you say, just a few words, it affects the brain function.
Yes.
That is no exaggeration. Because when I read your book, it was kind of hypnotic.
Yes. Matter of fact, the audio version has sound effects. It has a nice jazz flow to it. Because I want people to relax. You get into a meditative, like you said, a hypnotic state. And what people begin to do is unconsciously, they begin to change what they're doing.
That's what I was getting ready to say. It changed me against my will. It changed me against my will. I was like, really?
Now, I'll let you know secret. I'm also, as you read in my bio, I'm also a master neuro-linguistic programming. And so I put a lot of NLP in there, what we call embedded commands, open loops and all that.
Like I said, it changed me against my will.
I make no apology.
But I love it. I love it. But I was like, this is really happening.
Yes.
That's an amazing book. And I know that audio has got to be off the chain.
Yes. Yes. Matter of fact, I will send you a complimentary code. Matter of fact, I'm going to do this. Can I do something for your audience?
Sure.
I'm going to also give 10 audio books away. Absolutely free.
Oh my God. Thank you.
No problem. No problem.
You definitely got to come back when that next book comes out.
Yes, June of 2018.
Oh, wow. It's just been such a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. And you definitely come back.
I will. I promise.
Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.